As was expected, I was persecuted. I was picked up, sort of GOOM, that experimentation started with me at that point in time in 2013.
I read quite a few of your interviews where you said he directly approached you to join him.
Actually, my role was much more that of, something that you might appreciate a bit more, much more that of a consultant than really a political activist.
And there was a recent one where you were casually having a coffee with him in London.
It's just that the picture was allowed to come out after because, you understand the obvious implications of what would happen to my party and myself if the picture came out before.
Welcome to Election Conversations, a special series where we go beyond political rhetoric and campaign slogans to meet the people, ideas and policies that's going to shape Bangladesh's next political chapter. I am Zunaed Rabbani, and in this series, I sit with MP candidates and policymakers to understand not just what they stand for, but what sort of future they imagine for Bangladesh. My guest today wears quite a few hats. He's a highly published academic and university lecturer, a very well-spoken and composed personality, someone who brings a background that blends global exposure with local political ambition. Coming from a business family, he entered politics as a special advisor to the late President Hussein Mohammad Ershad, and later on founded his own political platform called National Democratic Movement, and is now contesting for the upcoming election as part of BNP-led alliance. Our guest today is Bobby Hajjaj, the MP candidate from Dhaka 13. Bobby Hajjaj, great to have you with us.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you so much, Zunaed Rabbani, for inviting me.
Congratulations on winning the nomination for Dhaka 13, comprising of Mohammadpur, Adabor, and a part of Sher-e-Bangla Nagar.
Yes.
Am I right?
Yes.
Now, these areas have incredible diversity and a long history. But at the same time, they have real-life socio-economic challenges, often laden with urban struggles, including high crime rate, high unemployment. You, on the other hand, come from a different background altogether.
Sure.
Maybe a privileged background, if I may say. Educated abroad, with degrees from UT Austin and University of Oxford.
Yes.
I'll start off with the same question the former British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak faced quite a lot. How can a candidate with your upbringing relate to or represent the aspiration of the local community, especially the youth from the local constituency?
Right. No, that's a very good question. First and foremost, there are a lot of gaps in between what you said. Like what you said is absolutely right. I do come from a business family. My father was one of the most celebrated, sort of business icons of the country. I was partially educated abroad, but you missed the part where I was educated in this country till, sort of HSC or, A-levels as well. And after that, especially over the last 15 years, actually last 17 years, a big part of my experience in Bangladesh has been fighting for the downtrodden. I've been, sort of opposing Sheikh Hasina's authoritarian regime since about 2013. So that's 13 years of that. And while doing that, I've been in touch with all sorts, all sides of people from the grassroots. So, last 10, 13 years, I've been busy most of the time of the year, 4 or 5 months of the year, I was outside of Dhaka. I was, sort of at the union, Upozilla levels, meeting people, building consensus, building my party, so on and so forth. So I would argue quite the opposite, that my political experience is really grassroots experience. My political experience is not, sort of, ivory tower or, sort of drawing room politics. So I think I connect well with my constituency. And I wouldn't just say my constituency is in Dhaka 13. I would say my constituency is in Bangladesh, the people of Bangladesh, the, sort of the general populace. the things they want, the way they think, and the future they desire. I think so my thought processes embody all of that because of the experiences that I've had, both in my political experience in the last 15 years and also growing up before that. So yeah.
Wonderful. No, I think nicely explained. Since you mentioned your active participation in politics since 2013, let's go back to 2013 when you kind of burst into the scene as a special advisor to late President Hussein Muhammad Ershad. I read quite a few of your interviews where you said he directly approached you to join him. But then I'm much more curious to know what happened afterwards, when and why the roads diverged,
Right.
and leading you eventually to open up your own political platform.
Sure. So my journey started in 2012, actually. I joined late President Hussein Muhammad Ershad in 2012. He requested me or urged me to join him. And the idea was that he was trying to prepare his party for the next generation of voters. Because, end of 2013, there was to be an election. Early 2012, you still had about 2 years going into it. And so he, recruited me in a manner of speaking to help innovate, modernize the party, prepare the party for the next generation of voters. And in that, initially my role was much more that of, something that you might appreciate a bit more, much more that of a consultant than really a political activist. But 2013 came and it became a year of turmoil, if you will, complete havoc, if you remember 2013, from the very beginning. So, the Hifazat Islam, the Gonojogaran Moncho, and so many things. And so 2013, many things changed in this country, and my role in the Jatiyo Party also changed. And by the end of the year, November 2013, it was quite clear that Sheikh Hasina's authoritarian regime had actually turned authoritarian and is now going to give election. And that's when, there was turmoil within the Jatiyo Party as well. People in the Jatiyo Party took sides. There were sides that wanted to stay neutral. There were sides that were actively working with Hasina. And there was a smaller side that didn't want to cooperate with an authoritarian regime. Late President Ershad originally took the side of, democracy. And he found that all of the senior leaders had gone on the other side. Either they were standing neutral or they'd already sided with Hasina. So, President Ershad couldn't find anyone. I was the only one around who he basically could trust and also was on the side of democracy. So that's when, the term you use, burst into the scene, that's when that happened. So I joined in 2012. I'd worked for the party for almost 2 years. And then 2013, when these things happened, when, everything, like President Ershad was 24 hours on the news. All the cameras were stationed in front of his house 24/7. What was he going to do? How was he going to do it? And whatnot. That's when I burst into the scene because he gave me the responsibility of representing him. He made me his chief spokesperson of the party, and also election coordinator of the party, because it was all related to elections. So he gave me 3 very important positions almost overnight. And that's when I burst into the scene. President Ershad was taken in a hostage or whatever. He was incarcerated in a hospital. And then I became the only person speaking for the party from the democratic side. Other people had already gone into, Hasina's camp. And so, again, as was expected, I guess, I didn't expect it as much as the time, but now looking back, as was expected, I was persecuted. I was picked up, GOOM, that experimentation started with me at that point in time in 2013. And then I was kicked out of the country. So after that persecution, and it was not just because of persecution, I was persecuted because I had chosen the path of democracy. So after that persecution, again, the Jatiyo Party and late President Ershad compromised with Sheikh Hasina, joined Sheikh Hasina's government. So I was allowed to come back, but I had already taken the side of democracy. So I was not going to work for Sheikh Hasina's puppet regime. So that's where the paths diverged.
Interesting how the political discourse for you, especially, it changed overnight. But then for some people, it changed gradually to a point that we had to wait till 2024 for that boiling point to happen. So you started your political platform in 2017, if I'm not wrong.
Right.
And it's called National Democratic Movement. In the recent years, you've grown visibly closer to BNP.
Right.
formally joining the BNP-led alliance, and also contesting, perhaps with their political symbol, in a few months. And on social media, we've also seen a few photos of yours with BNP's acting chairman, Tariq Rahman, one where you were taking a walk with him, very exclusive, not surrounded by too many party men. And there was a recent one where you were casually having a coffee with him in London. Again, not surrounded by party men, very exclusive conversation. Could you tell us a bit about your relationship with BNP's acting chairman, Tariq Rahman?
Sure. I'd be happy to. So, first and foremost, the two pictures you mentioned, one is rather old, the other is rather new. The first time I had any interaction with Mr. Tariq Rahman was when I was sent in exile by the Hasina government back in 2013. And the interaction was very minimal, but he reached out to me with his sympathies for being persecuted. And obviously, in your times of distress, in your worst moments, if somebody reaches out with sympathy, you do tend to remember that. It is important. Yeah. And he did, and I thank him for it. I'm grateful for it. After that, in 2022, early 2022, we officially joined the Jugopot Andolan. So, my party was formed in 2017, and from 2017 onwards, officially my party platform worked against Hasina's regime, as in demanding democracy, demanding sort of proper election in 2018, 2024, all that. So in many ways, as far as political activism was concerned, or on-street activism or programs were concerned, we were aligned with the BNP. As in, we were not working together, but we were all asking for the same thing. So if BNP is doing a demonstration in, suppose, one area or 500 areas on day X, we are also doing demonstrations on day X, just much smaller demonstrations, asking for the same thing. So in many ways, we were aligned since 2017. In 2022, we officially joined hands as partners of the Jugopot Andolan. Jugopot Andolan was the greater anti-authoritarian coalition of parties, led by, again, the BNP. So from 2022 onwards, there was officially a lot of conversation, a lot of sort of discussions between the Honorable Acting Chairman of the BNP, Mr. Tariq Rahman, and myself as Chairman of NDM. And during these discussions, most of the time what we were talking about is national policy. I mean, we have long discussions with somebody you do discuss a lot of personal matters as well. I mean, it becomes a casual conversation in ways, but the conversations always were based on national policy. I mean, how do we want to structure the country? How are we going to get, sort of this authoritarian regime to fall and then rebuild the country? All of those conversations. And we used to have, we have had over the last 3.5 years, many conversations. We've met a couple of times as well. The first time we met was when Hasina regime was in power. So obviously, the walk we were taking, the picture you speak of, that was taken way before Hasina's regime fell. It's just that the picture was allowed to come out after, because, you understand the obvious implications of what would happen to my party and myself if the picture came out before. But in those conversations, what I do appreciate, or what I've come to appreciate, is, the openness Mr. Tariq Rahman has as a leader, openness to ideas, openness even to criticism, because I've had lots of discussions with him again regarding how things should happen, how things are happening, and sometimes not so good about sort of our coalition or maybe his party leading the coalition, these sorts of things. And I've always seen him take every criticism with equanimity. He tries to understand every issue at a deeper level. And I'm not saying I understand all issues at a deeper level. So when the issues come up which I don't understand at a deeper level, he appreciates that sort of the need to go into elaborate explanations. So we have those long sorts of chats. And the patience I've seen him, you think about it, as political personalities, we have to talk to a lot of people. And we have to sit through a lot of conversations. Now, people who don't talk a lot or listen a lot, they don't understand how much patience is required, because your brain gets tired very quickly. After the first half an hour of conversation or 1 hour of conversation,
you zone out.
Yeah, basically. And, we have the privilege, as in me, myself, as a political activist or a leader, I have the privilege that I travel around. So if I have 5, sort of like public meetings in a day, suppose, I have one meeting and one gathering, then I, get in my car or whatever, and we move on to another meeting and another gathering, another meeting and another gathering. So you get these breaks, right? Mr. Tariq Rahman, over the last few years, the way he's been working, there are no breaks. He sits in front of the screen and there's one, group he's talking to, screen turns off, screen changes to another screen, another group he's talking to. And I've seen him in meetings that are 6 hours long. I'm not making this up. I'm not exaggerating. 6 hours long. People giving presentations, policy presentations, half an hour long, 40-minute long presentations, complicated presentations. After the 40-minute long presentation, I zoned out. I thought he had zoned out as well. But he's exactly on point. He asks pertinent questions. Like, what was it? I go, oh, wait a minute. Let me look through the slides again, the slides that were sent. Is he asking the right question? Absolutely. I should have asked that question myself, sort of a thing. And then this goes on for 6 hours. And after that 6 hours, he takes a 10-minute break or 5-minute break and then immediately goes into another public meeting where he's listening to, again, 30 people's speeches. And then in his speech, he's reflecting upon those 30 people's speeches. So, my appreciation of Tariq Rahman for all that I've seen so far is great. And I believe that, the fortitude he has shown, the patience, the level-headedness, over the last 14 months especially, he has shown, I think we can expect great leadership in the future.
From late President Hussein Mohammad Ershad to BNP's acting chairman Tariq Rahman, you've earned the confidence of two top leaders. They're different, but then this is true that they're the top of their political leader. And then you've had direct and in many cases exclusive access to them. What do you think they saw in you?
Well, that's one question you'd have to ask them. Having said that, the late President Hussein Mohammad Ershad is not around anymore to answer that question. I would think if I were to guess, because obviously I don't have the answer, only they would. But I would think that what they saw was honesty, hard work, and a genuine desire to provide democracy for the people of this country. And I think there was a point in time before Hussein Mohammad Ershad, the late President Hussein Mohammad Ershad compromised with Hasina's regime, where he wanted somebody of that sort, because he was also, because you see, you have to understand that back in 2012, when I was recruited, when he brought me into the party, he really believed that he didn't have long to live. In his, he was
in his 80s.
Yes, he was in his 80s. So, sort of towards the dusk of his life, if you will. And so he wanted to leave behind a legacy of his party. Like today, his party really doesn't exist. It exists, but in name only. No voters, no worker base, nothing.
Very controversial.
Yeah, it's done. This party is done, right? But back in 2012, sort of towards the twilight of his life, his desire probably was to leave behind the legacy of his party. And I think that's why he recruited me, that to leave behind the legacy of the party has to turn democratic. The party has to turn towards the new, generation of voters. And he believed, I think he believed that I have that love for democracy, that hard work, integrity and honesty, where he could have faith in me to try and achieve those goals for him or help him achieve those goals to whatever extent I could. I think those were the reasons why he trusted me so much and gave me such huge responsibilities at the worst time for him and his party in 2013. And I would like to think that those are similar things that the acting president of the BNP, Mr. Tariq Rahman, also appreciates, and that's why we share relatively close. I think a very good relationship.
I like the self-reflective exercise you just did there, as I'm looking at kind of like introspecting. Definitely, if I get the chance to ask Mr. Tariq Rahman at one point in time, I would ask him. But then your self-reflection of what sets you apart from the other party men, I think I also agree that to them, at least to the late President Hussein Mohammad Ershad, you were a conduit to the younger generation, and also your steadfastness or your persistent for democracy. I think that these are the things which were probably missing in the long-term party loyalist. I might be wrong, but then that could be a hunch. But then some of these qualities, definitely many people have the desire to change Bangladesh. Honesty is very intrinsic and all that. But then there are also other things like your analysis of how you look at a problem, the solution you can come up with. These things, and also people skills especially. These things need to be nurtured. over time. Looking at your last almost 12 to 13 years of political journey, how have you evolved as a person and also as a politician?
That would be a very difficult question to answer. You see, I've always been somebody who loves to learn and loves to interact with people. And in a sort of in a learning capacity, I believe I have something to learn from everybody. So, Zunaed Rabbani, I'm sitting with you today. I believe I have a lot to learn from you. The people who are working behind the camera, I believe I have a lot to learn from them. And so I genuinely, I'm not making this up. I genuinely have a curiosity when it comes to people. I want to sit with them. I want to talk to them. I want to learn about them. And if there's anything I can do for them in return for the knowledge they're giving me or the love they're showing me, I would love to do that. So that's just my nature. It's always been my nature. It's never been any different. So in that regard, as a person, I don't think there's been any evolution. That's just the person I am.
Sure.
As far as politics is concerned, obviously last 13 years, a hell of an experience. I've learned many, many things. There are many marks in my mind, indelible marks that's never going to go away. There are indelible marks in my body as well that has, gone through the strictures of an authoritarian regime. So that has, in many ways, you might argue, taught me a lot about political activism, the need for certain sorts of things in a country like Bangladesh, and how to maneuver in this political space. So as a politician or as a political activist, yes, I've matured, I've learned many things. And so in that regard, you might argue I've also evolved. As a person, I think I'm the same person I was. I love the exact same things. That's why I keep on persisting on doing the exact same things.
Have you become more patient? Or was it the same all around?
Maybe I have, but then you see, the question is, before I joined politics, before I was in politics, I didn't have to deal with so many people all the time. So the fact that I'm showing so many people all the time, the same patience I used to show a few number of people some of the time, that means maybe I have grown more patient, but the patience I show people hasn't changed.
As a politician, when you get to hear so many problems, like you would go to a place, a gathering, and people would want a solution. At one point in time, and this question could be specific to you or to other politicians as well, do you get indifferent? Do you get numb to so many problems coming up over and again and again and again?
Well, the thing is, you see, it's not just the problems and the number of problems. It's your inability to solve all of those problems or most of those problems. It is. Like suppose, you go to some area in, some area in remote Dinajpur, and they don't have access to good water, suppose. Overnight, you can't fix that. You can set up some deep tube wells and whatnot out of your own money or raise funds and whatnot. But, deep tube well has problems in those areas because, a lot of the water, underground water is contaminated. And so that becomes a problem. Now, you can't solve that overnight. What do you do? So, yeah, you do get somewhat numb to the problems themselves, but not to the people. And what I've seen, what I believe is the most important thing is people, you actually appreciating their problem and you genuinely wanting to solve them, not solving them because you might not be able to solve them, which again, I'm not in most cases. If, God willing, next election, our coalition wins and I get to play a, big role in that coalition, maybe I'll have a little more influence or I'll be a little more empowered to solve some more problems. Still won't be able to solve all problems or even close to all problems. But the point is that you appreciate the suffering and you genuinely have a desire to solve the problem, then you connect with the people. People don't get angry because you don't solve their problems. People are also, they have insight. They have understanding. They comprehend how difficult a solution to a problem might be. It's when you are indifferent to their suffering. So, one of the basic human qualities is empathy. Without empathy, you're barely human. And now to be a political activist or to be a true leader, I think, again, I'm not saying I'm a leader or anybody else is a leader. People make leaders. Nobody becomes a leader. But to be, in politics or activists or to connect with people, you need to have that empathy. What we see sometimes in people in political positions or positions of political leadership or other sorts of leadership, where they stop empathizing. They don't empathize anymore. Maybe it is a numbness or indifference from the scale of the problems, or frustration rather, not indifference. Frustration with the scale of the problems that makes them, unempathetic to people suffering. But the moment that happens, I think you should retire from political life.